Welcome to Inner Voice of Knowing podcast. I'm Kaye Doran, a shamanic leadership coach and healer, guiding you through life with a foot in both worlds. When you understand the terrain of the inner landscapes, the mental, emotional, spiritual and energetic, you will become the leader within your physical life, both personally and professionally. After all, the power of change is in your hands. Let's get this journey started. Everyone, welcome back to Inner Voice of Knowing. I have Ian Russell today, and today's going to be an absolute treat, as it always is. Ian grew up on the west coast of Scotland before moving to London to train and work as a psychiatric nurse. You found your way to Australia, retrained in traditional Chinese medicine, started your private practice with your beautiful wife, Michelle, and you are a qualified teacher in the Mantak Chia Taoist meditation system. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. Also
Perfect.
trained in rites of passage leadership. And there's more. Ian currently splits his time between East meets West and his integrative intuitive coaching business, the Braveheart Institute, where he uses a powerful combination of ancient healing techniques and knowledge and combines them with current scientific knowledge, which I love, Ian. And to be transparent, we know each other and have known each other for quite some time. So the foot in both worlds I really relate to, and I've experienced some of your work and it's powerful. So I'm really excited to have you here. So welcome to Inner Voice of Knowing podcast.
Thank you very much. And I've experienced some of your work and it's powerful too. So it's reciprocal.
We'd lost track for quite some time and then reconnected, and I was reminded of all these varied gifts that you already had and have grown upon. But my question for you to start, Ian, is when did you know that you wanted to be of service? Because clearly everything we read in what you're doing, you're here to be of service to others in their health and well-being.
From the beginning, that probably is the easy answer. I've always had a very stabilizing influence. I grew up in a very tumultuous world, is probably the best way to say it. Early divorce of parents, living in Glasgow, which is, for anybody who's from Glasgow knows, is not the easiest place to grow up. I always tell people a story when I was 17 and I was 17? Yeah, 17 or 18, unemployed. I'd gone to university for engineering, but it didn't work out. I didn't like it, so I was unemployed. So I actually got a chance to work on the shipyards. I've done a lot of stuff. Got a chance to work in the shipyards for, I think, 6 to 9 months.
Yeah.
And when I was working in the shipyards, a lot of the guys, especially, late 40s and 60s, used to confide in me and start talking to me about all the problems. And they obviously, I knew that I didn't have any world experience at 17 or 18. I had had a lot for growing up in those kind of circumstances, but no eldership type stuff. But I always trusted my intuition from the very get-go. So I was always able to help people see things in a more objective perspective. So very, 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 very early on for me. And it grew from there.
Because it is amazing that you've got people more than twice your age and you're just a young buck, but people are asking you for your wisdom. When did you know that you actually had a gift? Because you have a gift, clearly. Did you recognize it as a child or?
I don't know if I don't know if I ever saw it as a gift, more just of something that I just did.
Yeah.
It was, as I say, when I worked in psychiatry, it's the same thing. I always put it down as a natural ability more than, anything else. So for me, it wasn't, I always remember I went into psychiatry and I was interested in it because I used to sit in Glasgow and wonder why everybody was so crazy. Because I never felt as crazy as everybody else.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, why is everybody so mad around me? So for me, it's like another hand or anything like that. it's just something I've always used. I've never questioned. Using your intuition, I would tell other people, um, for me, there's a couple of standards. Like wisdom, everybody's got, but very few
Mhm.
use.
Yeah.
So it's not like anybody's wiser. For me, nobody's wiser than anybody else. It's just how much you actually use it.
Yeah.
That really is it. Nobody's more intuitive than anybody else. These are fully developed systems from the minute you're born. It's just again whether you naturally use it or you're programmed out of using it. So for me, like walking around in Glasgow, if you're not using your intuition, you can get into a lot of trouble. So I always think mine was forged out of necessity. And
Training ground.
yeah.
Yeah.
And when I went to psychiatry, like the guys who were really good at, and because I worked in forensic psychiatry, so I worked with very violent offenders.
Wow.
The guys who were the best at it were people like me from, Glasgow, Northern Ireland, Southern Ireland, Northern England. They all had very similar type upbringings and backgrounds. So for us, street smarts, intuition, they're kind of essential to your survival. So it
Yeah.
becomes a very practical thing for us rather than it's not a woo-woo thing for us. If you don't listen, you get in trouble very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And in psychiatry, you'd be able to read people before anything happens. So you're able to de-escalate and go and deal with stuff very early because you listen to it rather than waiting. A lot of my colleagues would wait till things crescendoed and got into a massive state of disarray,
Yes.
which was much harder to do it. Where if you listen to your instincts, that you can nip things in the bud. And I had a very successful psychiatry career because of that. Yeah.
I really love too that you pulled me up on the word gift, because I suppose I need to preface that with, I term the gift as when you know you've got it and you're gifting it to the world, because I too know that everybody has this wisdom. Everyone can access this. And what you call intuition, I call that inner voice of knowing. And I know for a fact, because for me, it's all about rewiring the system in the sense, and I know from 35 years of experience that everyone does have that inner voice of knowing, that intuitiveness, and it's not a whisper, and it can be very loud, very clear, very direct, and then you're actually listening to that innate wisdom that everyone has access to.
Yes.
So what led you then, if you've had a very successful career, as a forensic psychologist, what made you pivot from there?
So I was a forensic, this is just so that people don't think I'm something I'm not. I was a forensic psychiatric
nurse.
So,
Sorry, apologies.
so we're very different. So often, like with the nurses, we're with the patients 24/7. So we're in that frame. We're dealing with, we don't have someone as a single entity in a room. We'll have multiple different types of conditions, all like literally smashing off each other. Because you could have a unit full of violent offenders, sex offenders, schizophrenics, bipolar, and they do not mix well. Do you know what I mean? So they go off that. But the problem, and this is going into really what you do, is the world of modern medicine is very, 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 very like Newtonian based in its models. So it's very just matter based. Right now, no indigenous culture or intelligent culture knows that to be true as a singularity. Do you know what I mean? So the working in the psychiatric model, it is probably one of the we use in the Western system, they use the word science a lot, but there really isn't a lot of science used. Most of what we did when we were doing it was just give a lot of these guys heavy sedation. There was no real understanding of what was going on for these people. Or like we're still in our Western side of medical systems, we are very much in infancy. Of what is available. So a lot of these places is just basically, a suppression system, right? While they're trying to find out what is going on. And the brain is so complex that could take another couple of 100 years before, they really truly understand the brain. When you go into biochemistry and stuff, we don't know much at all about the system really yet, but we still interfere with it. So the system, it was the system that made it difficult to work in. So looking after people and caring for people, you can do it in any system you've got.
Yeah.
The systems really don't support the staff within the systems. So a lot of the staff are burnt out, more so I think now, and I've been out of it for 20 years more. And that you've heard about the state of the NHS, and I've mainly specialized in London. So
Yeah.
NHS is a mess. There's low staffing levels. It becomes very dangerous for the people, no matter which area you're in.
Yeah.
General nursing, as much as so that you can only argue myself 10 years from the very start of beginning to be in my career, and I literally left 10 years almost to the day to go into Chinese medicine, which it wasn't intentional. It just actually happened.
Oh, okay. So how are you feeling after that 10 years? Because from my shamanic perspective, that's some pretty hefty energies to be intermingling with. And a lot of people don't look at these aspects. Of course, probably listeners listening to this podcast do.
Yeah.
Because I'm always talking about, keeping our energy clear, the other influences, all that sort of stuff. So that's a lot of accumulation and a lot of burdens that you carry energetically being in that environment daily.
So now this is where we go back to your stuff, because my mum was a shaman. Right? So a couple of things, basically some funny things, not so funny things. Number one, I always reckon I was mad enough to go in there. I was probably madder than half the people that were already there. So we like when you think, and you go and touch on mindset, when you think a particular way, it doesn't affect you as much. We talk about neurological programming. I grew up in a very violent area, so for us, it wasn't really traumatic compared to the people who came in and weren't.
Probably compared to growing up in Glasgow. Yeah.
Yeah, I would tell them our grannies were tougher than them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But also my mum taught me from a very young age a lot of shamanic techniques. So I would literally go in. It was my nervous system that would settle the ward.
Yes.
So I learned to self-regulate very, very early in the piece. So it's a lot of people go in, and this is the people you will see. This is the people I see. They don't learn how to self-regulate. Self-regulation is one of the most important skill sets a human being can get. And if you're not able to do that, you actually can't then. My job was to go and regulate these people.
Yeah.
Not to be dysregulated. So by regulating yourself, you are minimizing a lot of the harm in what you see. Also, it was good fun. I was very young.
And you can respond differently. I actually just the other day had a healing client, because I have different areas like you that I work in. And it was, that we had to regulate her nervous system because no amount of thinking was getting her out of it. And then she wasn't even connected. We disconnect from our wisdom and that complete connection to actually then make the choice to move us through it. Yeah. You get a sense of it, concept of it, but no ability to really fully respond to it. So it's really powerful because, that nervous system rules so much.
It does.
And stops us from making empowered choices.
So that I study the human body. I've been studying human body for 30 years. The brain frequencies that you are in when you're in a sympathetic part of your brain, you actually go squeeze the blood from the frontal lobe, which is your higher thinking center, to the rear of the brain. So you're actually only using a small portion of the brain when you're in a sympathetic state. So perceptively, it is much harder to actually listen to your intuition. So it's an actual biological change that makes the choices. Yeah, it's. I think a lot of people don't understand, right? Because they're told a lot of things about how to do things, but they have no training to get out of that state where it is much easier to listen to your intuition
Yeah.
unless you're the reverse, like, and in those kind of situations, my intuition was just as strong, no matter what my sympathetic nervous system was doing. For a lot of people, that's not the case. It perceptually shuts off to it, but it's still there.
Yeah, shuts down common sense for some
Yeah.
people, depending on
Mm-mm.
the trauma. You can't talk
Yeah.
sense to them. You can't,
Yep.
they're yeah, I've
Can't
known
reach them.
someone with complex post-traumatic
Mm.
syndrome from childhood. And when that beautiful human being goes into that state,
Mm.
there's, it's almost like just walk away and give them space,
Yep.
because the talking even makes it worse. The
Yeah.
suggestions
Yes.
make it worse. It
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
and then we judge someone as toxic, or, I'm really against so many labels,
Same.
because you've just put a bag over someone or put them in a box and gone, right, you're,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
instead of helping find solutions and
Yes.
the skills on what you're talking about to regulate that nervous system. What are a couple of ideas that you've got for listeners that would be listening to this going, oh my God, Ian, you're making so much sense, that you
I have
could
a
help them?
what I always recommend is a kind of a 3-stage process for self-regulation. What I get my clients to do is, you have to remember, when you're in the sympathetic nervous system, you actually literally have a change in the chemicals in your bloodstream.
Yeah.
So this is just a pet hate for me. I hate the word anxiety.
Yes. Yeah.
Because it's a meaningless term. All right. If people say to themselves, I am now having adrenaline, that is something that's very important. So adrenaline, this is again why biology is so important. Adrenaline is speeding up your heart. And as when your heart speeds up, we know that there are a huge amount of neural pathways from the heart to the brain.
Yeah.
So as science is progressing, this is why science is good. It kind of reaffirms a lot of the stuff that the ancients said, right? And that's why I love across the board, right? It's like
Which
the woo-woo.
opens it up to people that
Yeah,
may have otherwise been really close to it.
exactly. The woo-woo is not woo-woo. It was highly intelligent people using the full spectrum of their biology. We can get back to that, right? But so the once the heart speeds up, you actually increase the speed of your thinking. So if you have an adrenal response that is due to danger, you never have to do anything, because you have everything you need to actually run away. So it's designed to run or kill. So obviously most people will run away, hopefully, unless you really need to kill, right? But if you don't run, then the brain perceives that the danger is still there, so you release more adrenaline. So trying to calm down when you have an adrenal release is the worst thing you can ever try and do, because your brain thinks, what are you actually doing, right?
Yeah.
Even though it's just perceptual, it doesn't matter. So whenever you've got the adrenaline in your body, so the first thing I recommend people do is just to shake.
Yeah.
Right. As soon as you shake your body, you are literally starting to give the brain the signal that you're moving. So you can do this at office or work. Do you know what I mean? Nobody cares. They know your shoulders are, rubbish because of the computers. That's why I see so many people for acupuncture, right? So that people can do that without really looking too
I've done
weird.
it when I'm walking along the lake.
Yeah.
I'm just,
Simple.
I just start doing this to just,
to do it. So you need movement to switch off the adrenaline.
Yeah.
So that's stage one, right? Second thing is breathing. So as you're shaking, you start breathing, because breathing is what regulates the rate of the heart. So now we're starting to regulate the heartbeat. You can start nice and strong, like a big, and then towards the end, slower and more gentle as you're bringing that down. And then what I incorporate is number 3 is fractal patterns. Fractal patterns are one of my favorite things as a go-to. And the fractal patterns take care of thinking. So the fractal patterns, they're on YouTube, they're free, it's a kaleidoscope, and they put you into a trance alpha state. And in a trance alpha state, you reduce thinking. So that takes care of the thinking component. And the best thing to do with this is to practice it when you don't need it, so that it is really automatic when you do need it.
That training, giving yourself permission. So when you're in that state, that's a brilliant idea.
So it's always training. If you do it in the camp, so I have a long history of martial arts. You train for a scenario when that scenario is not happening. And that creates those neural pathways so that you actually can go. And then eventually you wouldn't need all. You can just shake and breathe and you'll be fine. But for the overthinking, fractal patterns are one of my favorite if someone's using it. So you shake, breathe, fractal patterns. And they're given that everybody has, you know, direct access to the internet and
Yeah.
YouTube and all that kind of stuff. These are things that are actually easy to do, very practical, and they work. Like obviously, the bigger the stimuli, the longer you need to do it for. The shorter the stimuli, the less time. But if you practice a lot, you get quicker and quicker. And for me, you cannot avoid the sympathetic state. It's impossible in our culture,
Yeah.
in our society. I don't think we have much of culture left anymore, but it's impossible to not have a stress response anymore. So the trick is to be able to come out as quickly as possible, because as you said, when you're in sympathetic, you're not thinking well and your decision making is very impaired. And your parasympathetic, your thinking is much clearer and you will make better choices and decisions.
And the dis-ease that you're creating in the body.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I meditate all the time. You know, I'm so integrated in what I do, and then I'm still sharing that. You know, a couple of weeks ago, I was having to just regulate myself, but it's the go-to, and I think that's from years of practicing. You know, practicing changing my mindset, practicing changing the way that I look at things, that changes how I feel about things, and I think that's a really powerful point that you've said, because a lot of people will not want, and just start with something small. Just start with the shake of the
Really
body
small.
first, you know, and like going to the gym,
Mhm.
you know, you start small and then you get stronger and then you get stronger and then you really want to go to the gym rather than
Yes.
making yourself go to the gym. And, you know, it's like anything in life, isn't it? Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Repetition is the key.
Yeah. Do you feel like, I sometimes feel like people want the quick fix? You know, so they don't do it and then they can't do it because they're dysregulated or whatever it might be. But it's like this becomes an ongoing way of being in this modern day world.
Yeah. Well, that's if you don't mind me referring to the rites of passage. So
Yes, please.
the indigenous rites of passage. When I did the rites of passage, I literally had one of those, aha moments. And this is in context. I did the rites of passage just the second level 2019, so just before all the COVID interesting times happened. And it was on that one. I was over, and I apologize to every Australian on the planet. I can never say half these names properly. Mullumbimby, I don't know where it is. New South Wales, Northern New South Wales. Beautiful, beautiful place. We're up in the hinterland. It's forests everywhere, and you were living in a tent, and it was 3 days, and it was with the lovely Arnie Rubinstein, and we're doing the whole process. And this is mainly aimed at teenagers, because in traditional societies they would do the transition, but they did transitions for every stage of life. So what they did was they mentally prepared their neurology for everything. Right. Now, in the indigenous world, the rites of passage for children was adversity. So, from what I can understand, the women would get lots of stamina type as processes, which makes sense with childbirth, etc. The men would get very painful ones, like the sun ceremony, where they put the stone through the chest, etc. And because they would more likely to be injured in battle and stuff like that. So the process, if you break it down, is very, 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 very interesting, because what it shows is they knew that human beings needed very, very good, strong neurology to get them through their lives, right?
Yeah.
And again, these are biological things. So this is where we destroy any idea of woo-woo. They knew that in higher states of consciousness, your cells produce more pain relief through endorphin release than they do when you are in beta or the normal day-to-day states. So they would often put them into trance states to help them get through the pain.
Yeah.
Now, it also taught them that there would be pain in life and how to get through it, right? Because biologically, on every level, our brain is naturally designed to avoid pain. So we will avoid anything painful. And that is not because, we are literally trying to avoid what the subject matter is because on a biological level, we are normally adverse to pain. Right? So they had to be taught how to go through pain, which we are not, right? When we go through it, it doesn't matter whether you get trained or not, you still go through the same kind of life stuff, but they were trained to go through it. So it just struck me how well that these people were trained and how solidly their neurology was trained to actually give them a very solid footing in life. And that is absent in with the Western civilization went out and destroyed all the cultures who knew how to set up the brain well. And ours is just higgledy-piggledy chucked in.
Yeah.
And there's no frame of reference, right? And another aspect was the deep connection. And this is a very strong shamanic principle, the deep connection with nature, because our biology requires that nature to self-regulate. The deep connection with others and the deep connection with self. So the actual process, there's a commonality and well-known thing with PTSD that if you go through a traumatic experience with some other people, there's an incredibly strong bond.
Yeah.
So can you imagine an actual, indigenous culture where everybody goes through exactly the same trauma process? Can you imagine how well bonded that society actually is?
Yes.
So it's the instinctively
the same thing
knew.
through story. When people sit and gather and share story and bring story back and that openness, and everyone's like, that's a bit like me, or I've been through that, and it just creates that beautiful web of connection.
Have you read The Knowledge Gene?
No.
Right, Knowledge Gene is I won't go away from the camera, but I'll send you a thing. It's an Australian scientist who she's obsessed with the indigenous and storytelling. And storytelling was their way of giving all the information about everything around them, where the water was, everything. So it was such an important thing. Yeah. And they say like some of the tribespeople and the islanders of Pacific Islanders can actually verbatim list off all their ancestors going 1,000 years back because they've trained their memory to remember every single human being that has ever been part of their tribe.
Wow.
It's incredible.
That is incredible. I mean? Yeah.
So a story for her is it's a way of actually keeping those memories of everything, the importance of everything, and passing it to the next generation. So it is in our cellular memory, that is one of the most powerful tools that a human being has.
It's a natural library, really, isn't it, Ian?
Isn't it? Yes.
Yeah. Can I ask you, I've got my take on initiation and rites of passage, and a lot of times people put the two, and confuse it. It's the same. For me, it's not the same. For me, initiation is when you're going through those really challenging situations and you're being trained in a way. And then the rite of passage for me is the like the exam. How integrated are you with that? So can you talk to us from your perspective about initiation and then rite of passage?
Well, rites of passage for me was generic. So if you're in the tribes person, every tribes person goes through rites of passage. And again, as I said, they would be, from what I understand, I'm not an expert in this, it's just, what I'm learning. I'm not an expert in anything. I just learn everything I can about everything. So I'm always happy to be corrected. The differentiation, I would say, was the rites of passage were standard for people going, everybody going through it. Whereas, like, say, for example, you're in a shaman and you're getting initiated into a particular thing, for me, that's more specific.
Yes. Yeah.
Does that make sense? And as you say, again, a very set, not everybody in the tribe would be shaman. Not everybody would want to be a shaman. The initiation into different things is quite different to rites of passage.
I don't know of anyone that wants to be a shaman. I usually say, like me, you're born a shaman, or you're born and there's the elder shaman that's like, this one's shaman, but I don't know. it might be a modern day thing where people go, I want to be a shaman, but that's a
Yeah.
whole different story, sort of off
Yes.
to the
Yeah.
side. But I remember a really powerful moment, personal moment, if I could share that with you, Ian. I'd a year ago walked the Camino. You were
Yes.
helping me because I had my meniscus taken out close to, I had no training because I had to stop training because of the operation, and helping with the arthritic knee, and then with a lung infection, which I
Yeah.
had. And, you know, what I loved about you is you were really helping me with that. But then also when I said to you, the doctor wants to put me on, you're like, let's do both, right? And the doctor in particularly was amazed at how quickly, and I know it's because of what you were doing with me with acupuncture and herbs and the salt room and the stuff I was doing myself. He was astounded that I was completely clear and okay to go. But it created a tough Camino for me, which is, you know, and towards the end, I was in so much pain because the knee then offset when you hit the masseter, you know, something else that then the glute, and incredible pain. But I actually put myself into that altered state because of all my years of meditativeness, and I found my rhythm and could still smile, and I saw scenery that my friend didn't see. And, you know, and I was sort of trying to reflect on that when I'd come back and needed to see you because of the state that I was in. But I started to get a sense, you know, in pieces of the puzzle, and it's like I started to sense rite of passage. And I was on the table and I hadn't said anything, and you turned to me when I'd said some stuff and you went, well, yes, that was your rite of passage. And then we had a conversation around that. That's just your knowing. Are you reading energy? Is it a combination, everything that you've been trained in from being raised by a mother that was a shaman, and you know, everything else?
I just like it's like I was very different to how my mum used to like see a lot of
Yeah.
stuff. I generally don't see it, I sense it.
Mm.
So obviously, you know, like I actually didn't do any much training with my mum at all.
Yeah.
Other than she would just give me snippets and all that kind of stuff, because I never saw myself as shamanic. Like I don't see myself as an anything, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. It's
Yeah.
I love shamanism and I grew up with it. And as you know, I love the drum and you know, all the sessions and all that kind of stuff. But I just kind of sense when I'm like, sometimes I see things, sometimes I just sense it.
Mm-hmm.
So I just see it.
Yeah.
I've always said what I've got. I have to be completely honest. When my mum was trying to teach me shamanism, I was so crap at the journeys and all that kind of stuff. That's why I never kind of followed it.
But
I
you've
wasn't
found your
particularly
path.
talented at it.
You know,
Yes,
like my path is
yeah,
so different to another
yeah,
shaman's path. And
yes.
we don't all sort of, in a sense, do exactly the same thing.
Not at all, no. Yeah.
So, you know, you had to find your way. But what I love is, let's just pick up that moment that you sense it and you say it. You just
Yes.
trust it.
Yeah, always.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think when I was
no
teaching
time in my life, yeah.
yeah, in the healing modality that you came to learn after your mother had been over on a visit and did with me, which I only ever taught when people asked me, because I could only teach the framework of how I
Yes.
was working in a healing session as such, not what I do exactly.
Yeah. Well, you know, I still use that stuff to this day.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. I used to say to people, if it comes into your mind, into your feeling 3 times, you've got to let that source message come straight through you. That's where I was
I don't
going
even
with
wait
that,
for 3 times. As soon as it comes, there's the blur.
Oh, no, I don't wait now either. It's like, but the training is 3
Yes.
times,
Yeah.
you know, let it go.
Let it come.
Speak
Yeah.
it out.
I just find that I think maybe it's the Scottish part of me. We don't kind of like hold back in saying anything. We're just always like super honest.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it doesn't go down well in other cultures, but it does go down well in Scotland.
Yeah. And then where does the martial arts weave into this for you?
My grandfather was a boxer, so I got
Okay.
brought up boxing. Obviously Glasgow's rough. And the units we used a lot of Aikido. So a lot of my job was actually physically restraining people when they lost control. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So and hilariously, I just grew up loving watching, like Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan, and it was just fun. I've
Yeah.
always worked with great martial arts teachers. They probably hate me because I never take anything seriously when I'm there. I used to just know a whole, like, especially in Australia, I used to I've trained in Wing Chun, Tai Chi, Qigong, because again, that's what got me into the Chinese medicine in the first place was my love of martial arts. And I
Okay.
loved it, and it got me to start looking into Taoist theory, Buddhist theory. So got me interested because a lot of when I was in psychiatry was very limited at that time. It's now, it's now stolen a lot from the Buddhist,
Yeah.
mindfulness, all that kind of stuff. But it didn't have any of that when I was working there. That was closed off to a lot of those kind of things. They've grown into that.
Yeah.
Um, so going in and we used to just love watching Jackie Chan movies. We were
Oh,
addicts
yeah.
to it.
Back in the
Yeah.
day.
Yeah. And just fitness and um, all those kind of things, but the actual way of looking at the world, because my mum was a physics teacher and a shaman, so I have a very strong physics background. And if you read Taoism literally is just physics. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Okay. Speak into that a little bit.
So when you have you heard of the Tao Te Ching?
Oh, yes. My
Yes.
my son's name, Teo,
There
has
you go.
actually
Yeah.
come from
Yeah.
the Tao. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Tao Te Ching, so the concept to the Tao is that it's mainly potential energy. And then you have yin and yang. So then you have the
Yeah.
polar opposites to create the known universe. So you can't,
Yeah.
this is the whole concept of Chinese medicine, but it's also the concept of engineering.
Mm.
There's thermodynamics, it's all of these kind of things. Um, so I'll still love, science, even though that I don't particularly use much of it theoretically in work anymore. But the Chinese were really one of the first engineers. They would look at the world around them and say, if it happens in nature, it has to happen in our physiology.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at the whole universe, it is like, okay, we've gone from a potential into something, and the actual Taoist way of being is like you have the Tao, which is potential energy. Then you have yin and yang, which is the polar opposites of existence. Then you have the five elements, which is, he, so the earth, water, air, all the five
Yeah.
elements in nature.
Yeah.
Then they have the eight gates, which is, I won't explain, it's too hard to explain
Yeah.
here. And then they have the 10,000 things. So they have contraction as a small state to expansion. So if
Yeah.
you take the Big Bang theory and put it right beside that, you have contraction, expansion as well. So it's
Amazing.
very, if you when you put them together, the Taoists and the Buddhists told us that the world was nonsensical and an illusion. Now we have physics telling us through quantum physics that the world is an actual illusion, that
Yeah.
a Newtonian world is not real.
Yeah.
Um, Again, I'll come back to shamanism. Shamans were told that they walk between worlds, which is the nonsensical world and the physical world, which
Yeah.
again is your Newtonian physics and your quantum physics.
Yeah.
So that's why none of this stuff's actually woo-woo. It's just relating. It's a description pre-scientific terms of the nature of the universe,
I
which
do
we still
not
don't fully
like
understand.
that. Isn't such a powerful way that you've explained that and described that,
Yeah.
because it really brings it together, side by side. But I really dislike that word woo woo.
I know.
Someone keeps saying to me woo woo, and I go, no, let's just call it wow wow. But what it really
Yeah.
is it's our most authentic self.
Yes.
It's our
Mhm.
it's the original and forever form
Mm.
and
It's
the
the only
energy of who we are.
yeah.
The
It's the only
the
consistent thing
physical
that we
is
are.
is
Yeah.
the weird bit. Do you know what I mean? Not really,
Yeah.
but it's
Mm.
what we call woo-woo is our
Yeah.
most natural
Mm.
state and truth.
Yes. But because it's a nothing state, like a not definable state, it's very
Yeah.
hard for the brain to conceive, right?
Yeah.
Whereas our physical suit is just, it's 50 to 100 trillion cells. it's a biomechanical suit for who we actually are. But because there's no definition of really what we are, it's so hard for the human brain to comprehend. So we just rely on, a group of information in a biological suit, and then we define that as the self. But it's as far from the self as you could ever imagine.
Yeah. It can't be conceptualized.
No.
It has to be anything that you learn or that's spoken about or read must be applied.
It can't.
And, going in, which is why meditation and Tai Chi and things like that are so important, because it's an experiential awakening.
Yes.
That any words, it's even like when I do the healing work with my clients and they want me to sort of say what I've done, I'm going to say, okay, and I have to stop and think, because I have to take it from being so vast and beyond words and narrow it down into something that they can, they've got a sort of sense or an understanding of. But you can't really put words. We start limiting it the minute that we do that. I was going to ask you, Ian, Qigong was something that was really powerful for me back when I'd had my first car accident. And because of the pain, I learned to meditate. But Qigong was something that really moved it through me, and I was released from it there. Is martial arts an energetic movement and play in the same kind of way that something like Qigong is, where you're moving energy, or is it very different?
Well, the concepts behind it depends on which systems you follow. In Kung Fu, they would call that Fajin. So the expansion of the power, theoretically, of the energy of your body. All right. So but this is where you get in with the combination of the mystical with the like for me, the way the brain frequencies work are like a sliding scale. So because if we identify what our body is, we are atoms first, then molecules, then molecular chains, then tissues, then we go from a very ethereal form, because I say atoms aren't solid, they're just spinning vortexes of energy as far as we understand, right? So we're based on energy, but that energy isn't a material form, but it's still energy at its core, but we sense it as this. Whereas the brain, for me, depending on which frequency you're in, is like a sliding scale. So when you go into the higher states of meditation, you are at that atomic, nonsensical end of the scale. So you really sense in the deep meditations, that we are this fabric combined. Now, in the martial arts, the Fajin, the idea with that is that, and Qigong, is that you're opening to those states. Now, and those states, as I said before, they are the most nourishing cellular states our human body can be in. Right? The most powerful states. So when you're in the states, the biology, the tissues, they're the most relaxed, which is also the most powerful Kung Fu state you can be in. So these guys would have a lot of power, but they were able to project power. So do you want to know the story behind Qigong?
Sure.
So Qigong, all these kind of things where they were to develop that internal power, so they could actually in a fight rupture the organs of the opponent. So they'd be able to project the energy into the opponent and actually destroy internally. So Qigong was developing the body to resist an opponent's attack by projecting that energy out, which you see the Shaolin monks do. They do it with the spears. They're able to concentrate and repel an actual spear. Have you ever seen those guys do that? It's insane, right?
This is making me think, sorry to stop you there. This is making me think with the master that was teaching the Qigong. I remember we were all sitting on the floor. I was front row, and he was demonstrating this power with this knife. And he passed the knife around. I felt it, went, oh, cheapers. And you could see him put the pressure on his arm. And I'm thinking, I'm going to get covered in blood here. I'm just going to be covered right in front of him. And Not even a red mark, Ian.
Yes.
Not even a
Yeah.
red mark.
Yeah. So you got to remember these guys, like when you actually look into everything. So if you look at Taoism, Buddhism, the Kung Fu arts, there's one core thing they all do is they all take children on at 4 years old.
Yeah, okay. Why 4?
So because the Quakers are famous for saying this. Quakers are like, give us a child of 4 and we'll teach them anything.
Okay.
So if you imagine, right, so if we're looking at the body as an ethereal physical entity, the limitations, Stephen Hawking says, the model of the world comes from our brain. So if you take a child and 4 years old, so this is when they're in their strong neurological development, they're building literally that world. So given that we actually don't know our full potential, the problem for us is that we limit it and we go, no, we're just purely physical.
Yeah.
So that limits what we are capable of doing. Whereas the Shaolin monks, etc., what they can do, I would never try and do it. There's no way now I could. My system's like, no, I'm physical, and that will go straight through my throat, right?
Yeah.
But they're trained from 4 years old to not have that belief integrated.
Yeah.
You know, so and you look at the Buddhists. I think one of the Buddhist techniques, when they're ready to go into, you know, monkhood, they sit them in wet robes on the side of the mountain in the cold, and they will heat up the robes using their biology. They're they they are the opposite to what Western people are. They can rule their autonomously rule their biology, whereas we let our biology rule us. So
Oh, that's so powerful.
does that make sense?
Oh
So
my, yes. And I'm
yeah,
thinking
so
of all these people that talk about manifestation and really
yeah.
this is it.
Yeah, so they're trained from a very young age to have, you know, and the same again would come by the shamans. The shamans were put through horrific processes to get rid of any resistance to what the system is capable of. I mean, we only use a small potential of what our brain is literally capable of. So we don't
Yeah.
really know like healing processes, all these kind of things. Every individual has that potential, but we don't actually go anywhere near most of that potential because we're not trained to deal with the conceptual limitations of the human body,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. So
Absolutely.
and when the martial arts and all these trainings, they were there to reduce that resistance, to let the power of the body come out, to train the body so it's fluid and moving in that, you know, beautiful trance state that, you know, you get in sport, you get it everywhere. You see, if you see a top sportsman, you see that fluidity. You know, anybody that's really the top of their game, when you see them in that flow state that we like to talk about in neurology, then that is when the brain is no longer interfering in the potential of the system.
My son did that on the football field.
Mm.
He grew in my belly while I was meditating and compiling that first book and the whole thing. But he was he's 6'7" now, but he was so tall, but he'd be so graceful and so fluid.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'd be like, where is he next? Whereas there was another young player there that just as tall, but seemed a lot heavier in movement. It was like he was just in this natural, graceful, where is he now? And he'd run past and he wouldn't be picking up the ball. The ball would just sort of come up off the ground, or like it would look and feel like that into his hand. Yeah. We can all have a moment like that, can't we? Or moments like that. Yeah.
So that a lot of training allows you to get in space to allow.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? But when people do that, it's either a natural ability. Do you know, like we were saying with ours, you know, ours are natural abilities, right?
Yeah.
That we share with everybody. It puts you into that flow state. Whereas people don't often train long enough or hard enough to allow the flow state. It's an automation.
But even in the natural abilities that we were born with, like for me, that absolute inner voice of knowing that was not an intuition, it was a teacher, an educator, a psych, it was everything, it was loud.
Yes.
And never dulled down. I've still had to implement meditation, different breathing practices, all these different things, stuff that I do to give myself energy when I'm out in nature and breathing in beauty, and to keep caring for that state. And when that goes awry, the energy becomes denser.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we become more physical.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I finished the rites of passage in New South Wales, it was funny because I was still, obviously, I'd gone back up to Queensland, um, and I'm in this totally open state. I'm walking around shopping malls and stuff like that, and I'm like walking, I can read people's auras, all that kind of stuff. It was just weekend. It wasn't intended to do that, right? It was like, but you could see everything shrinking, and you could sense it shrinking to go back into normal life. Because to be that open with so much around us that doesn't support it, we don't remain open. We have no, we don't have the natural stimuli to stay in those states like the Aboriginals did, like the American
Yeah.
Indians did. So for us, that we have access to historical ways of living spiritually, but physically for us, that is not around us. And the stimuli is completely opposite. Right? It doesn't mean that we can't do it, but as a natural entity, it's harder to maintain. So
Yeah.
all the people that are having a go at themselves for not maintaining it, if anybody's watching this, it's not your fault. It is because our environment does not support those states naturally anymore.
Yeah. I was in an amazing state some months ago. I put together for a group of women ceremony, but it was basically 12 ceremonies in the one ceremony, covering off all the things that they've missed, and because of different age groups, things that they may then be moving into that some of the women in the group needed. So I thought to myself, oh my God, that was like, I don't know, turned out to be, when I counted it up, like 102 ceremonies if I counted all the ceremonies for all the women. The state that I was in, thank goodness I'd taken 2 days off after that, because I was just so, and I was aware that I actually needed to bring it all back in, because living in this world with so much density, because I'm clearly not trained enough yet. So I suppose there are people that can just sort of stay in that and manage it. But it was just way too expanded, and yeah.
From all my readings, there's very few people, like the Taoists talk about people who stay in that state all the time.
Yeah.
But they put them down as very evolved beings.
Yeah.
So and all the things I've read, they're not very common.
Yeah.
And Hindu stuff is the same. They do, talked about people who walk among the earth, and they're literally immune to what's going on because they are naturally in that state. But it's not from what I've read, it's only mentioned a few times, and it's not a commonality
Yeah.
of that kind of thing. You got to put in context, and this is what I say to a lot of people, right? If you're reading anything about a Buddhist or anything like that, you have to have the context that they'll leave society to maintain those higher states of consciousness.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
can't do it that's why my favorite of anything is the shaman system and the indigenous system, because indigenous system married normal human life
Yeah.
with change of state of consciousness.
Mm.
Whereas the esoteric systems like Buddhism, they are an extreme.
Yes. Up on the
And
top of
and
the
to
mountains, in the
they're
cave
I'm
or
talking
in the
about they
temple.
literally if you try and get to um a lot of these places, they're so extreme to get to because they had to be, because we're extremely vulnerable when we're in a higher
Mm.
state. We need our sympathetic states because they're animalistic protective states. That we're not advanced enough to not need that in our biology anymore.
Yeah.
So in order to not go close to them, which is what a lot of Buddhism and stuff like, they're trying to stay away from that animalistic, developing part of the developed part of the brain into the higher
Yeah.
regions. But to stay there, they had to be very physically safe, which
Yes.
meant keeping away from all the
Yeah.
madness of, warring China and all these kind of things. So a lot of it, because it's infiltrated the West, people can't practice it the way that these people did.
I'm so
You know what I
glad you've
mean?
covered on that. That's a really
It's
powerful point.
impossible, right?
Yeah.
But the shamanistic stuff, because it is based on thousands, hundreds of thousands, because shamanism is one of the oldest systems on the planet. I mean, Taoism came from shamanism. And I think every system literally came from
And
shamanism,
it's
right?
in every country. When people ask
Right.
me, they just think
Yeah.
Native American or something. It's like,
No,
no. And there've been men
no.
and women.
Yes, women, right?
Yeah.
But it's about women work and men and women working in the tribe and being supported in those roles. So for me, it is a very middle ground, both worlds. Like it looks after the material, looks after the esoteric, but it mixes these together. And because our biology is that mix, sometimes we're more subjective and very material, other times we're very esoteric, and we bounce around all of these areas, you know, all over the place. When, like, for people like myself and you, we're really just trying to help people be able to shift to which part of their biology and state they want to, when they want to, rather than going into these states without any consciousness, being just knocked into states or getting stuck in a state. Do you know what I mean? For me, a highly skillful human goes, I need this today, I'm going to go here. I need this today, I'm going to go here. I need this for this choice making. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It opens up your biology to you rather than you just having a very small section available to you.
And the understanding of masculine, feminine energy, which is not male and female, that masculine, which is creating a lot of these problems where everything's external, work harder, longer hours. So much focus and energy is in the doing and the achieving and the striving. And that's what's putting us out of balance from my perspective, because then we've got to bring the two together. So they're sort of hand in hand, where you have the being, and which is why I say all the time on the podcast, we've got to start seeing ourselves as soul and energy first, connecting with that. And then that's what actually helps us move out into our physical world and physical existence, but with that understanding, rather than I'm physical first and every now and again I'll do a bit of soulful, spiritual stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you say it like that, the higher states of our consciousness are the ones where our parasympathetic nervous system is the most powerful. And their nervous system is all about creating a state of balance and communication between all of our 100 trillion cells. That is his actual job. So when like this idea of balance is our homeostasis, right? And if we're sympathetic, that disrupts that homeostasis. If we're stressed, we destroy that. But the drumming, everything that you do, if you would do in a shamanic session, is actually increasing that person's self-regulation.
Yeah.
And if you don't take that space, do you know what I mean? And in neurology, it's called the central midline. So when we go into a state like that, the blood follows a line right between the two hemispheres of the brain.
Okay.
And it's a sorting time where we sort information, because a lot of people, the brain is 25,000 years old for the frontal lobe, right? So it's not a new upgrade. We haven't had, as far as I'm aware, we haven't had a new upgrade in a long time. I think the limbic system is the last one, which is the processing of chemicals into what we call emotions, right? But the actual brain itself is incredibly old. It's probably 6 million years old. So we haven't really had an update in a significant amount of time, but yet society has changed so much that the load of information on our brain is insane and will put us into a stress state. And if we don't take the space away, we never get time to assimilate everything that we've actually tried to stuff into our cranium. And that is what's stressing people out more than anything now.
What part do you think that continual access to information and, all the technological, it sort of encompasses a lot of the conversation that we've had about, story and connection. And this has a sense of, like I've connected with some people that I may not have met because they're overseas, but it's not the same as sitting with others kind of connection. So
well,
what's your take on that?
we're biologically designed to be next to humans.
Yeah.
There's no argument on that. That's a biological necessity. My concern over technology is the brain can atrophy as much as a muscle can. There is literally no difference between the way that our biology and our body works compared to our mind.
Yeah.
So if we are not using our brain, we do not develop pathways. If we don't develop pathways, we don't have access to those parts of the brain. So the more people rely on technology, the more this will atrophy. So
Yeah.
it's not developed. We need the way that neurology actually works is you have to do physical repetition. So the quickest way to do something to create a neurology is to use your hands and do the process. And that creates that. So that physical action creates the pathway.
So an
So if we don't do
example,
that,
like writing, or what are you talking
writing.
about?
So one of the best things you can do neurologically, if you do journaling, is to physically take a pen. Don't do it on a computer. Physically take a
Oh no,
pen and write.
I'm big on a
Yeah,
pen. I haven't got it
yeah,
here, but I've bought a couple of really
yes,
beautiful pens that
yeah,
a guy makes up in East Arnhem Land, and
mm,
yeah, I energetically
yeah,
I can feel the difference from when I'm sitting here
yes,
typing to when I'm
yeah,
pen to paper.
and
Yeah.
that's that. So without a physical action, you can. So this is again when you're dealing with coaching and stuff like that, right? One of the
Mm.
biggest problems with vision work is a vision is an idea, right? But without a practical movement of the body, there's no pathway formed. And this is why often visions just disappear because people don't do the physical repetition. So the
Yeah.
way I like to describe it is if you've got a vision, imagine the having like the plans for a house. Without actually building the house, the vision never becomes real. And our neurology works exactly the same way. To build your vision takes constant physical processes in the material world to create the biology to support the vision.
Yeah, hence you can't just sit on the couch all day and
And just magically,
visualize things.
I know, like, thanks, secret. Do you know what I mean? Right? Visualizing on the couch won't get you nowhere
Yeah.
other than it can help you. I like the dreaming and the shamanic dreaming and of tomorrow's American Indian. I think it's Aboriginal as well. The visualization of the next day is a very powerful thing, but then you have to go and embrace physically the day.
Yes, and do what's required
Yes,
to
to do
participate
it.
in the
Yeah,
creation of that
yeah,
vision. And a lot of
yeah.
the time for us, it's also changing certain, letting go of certain thoughts,
Hmm.
behaviors, foods, whatever it might
Yes,
be, to actually
to do that.
become an
Yes,
energetic match
yes.
for
You
that.
always have to do the work.
Damn, and I just wanted to sit here and become a
Yes,
multi-millionaire and just
yes.
visualize it all coming
I
to me.
know, which a lot of people want to do, right? But the thing is, like, one of the processes, like, you don't learn kung fu by just watching Jackie Chan on. You have to go and train religiously, so because muscle memory. And
Yeah.
it's the same if you have a vision. It's like often you've not got the network already available because it's something that's new. So we're neuroplastic, we develop our neurology. So we have to develop the neurology to support the vision.
Yes. Yeah.
And that
I get
requires
my clients
physical.
to not visualize, but
Mm,
they do visioning,
yes.
but they have to
So
feel it.
important.
There's a whole
Yeah.
process that gets to it.
Yeah.
But it's like, when you watch the movie trailer of a film, all the best
Hmm.
bits done.
Yes.
It's over that quick. I think people
Mm.
are putting too much filler in it and too much length into it, and the message
Hmm.
gets watered down. And
Yes. Do you know what I mean? We
yeah,
need the vision because it's something that's not there yet.
yeah, but it's a part of the puzzle.
Only one part.
Yeah,
Do you know what
only
I
one
mean?
part. Yeah,
Only one part. And it's because we're trained out of creativity in school, and we're trained into repetition. So we've got the repetition power for a lot of people, but a lot of people lose the creativity because it's a very childlike state.
yeah,
It's a fun state. It's like a not serious state, right? And and I always say as well, it's like, it's like being like, the West Coast of Scotland, we have very strong ties to the Norse because the Norse settled in our part of the world. And they were master shipbuilders. But I guarantee they weren't master shipbuilders at the very beginning.
mm,
They'd make a model, test it, go, meh. That's why I like science so much, right? Science shows you that, things take time. I think Einstein took 8 years to do a theory of relativity, right? you have to keep testing the models to see in the material world to see whether they're good or not, and be objective enough to know whether it's not, and then go, okay, what do I need to help this vision happen?
Yeah.
Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
So for someone, Ian, you're so vast in knowledge and experience and in so many ways, it's fantastic. I could talk to you for ages. We're going to have to go out and have a lunch one day or something.
Thank
But if
you.
someone really wanted to create a shift, what would be the 3 top things you would say to start implementing towards change?
Number one, I have a process to alter state. So it's, as you said, you need to let, when we're doing creative states, we need to let information in. And if we're too busy, we won't do that, right?
Yeah.
Number two, have a ability to change emotional states. So
Yeah.
because I say that, as you said, whenever you choose something, and especially when it's not something that is like something that could be something completely new in your world, it's not there already, you're going to get oppositional thoughts, because I said, when we go back to the rites of passage, the natural thing for the brain is to keep its state. So
Yes.
fear is a natural response to change, because
Yes.
it's like, holy crap, what are you doing? So you need to be able to, be able to change your state well, so that you can actually action something and not talk yourself out of what you're doing. So creative way of a way of creativity, so journaling, that kind of stuff, then change your state to give you a fighting chance to actually action something new. And third, I would go with intentions. Intentions create the start of the pathway.
Oh.
So, right. So when you're doing it, and it's been well scientifically seen that an intention starts the process of creating and joining neurons. So intention is a very powerful thing, and I intend to do it today. Doesn't mean if you're successful or not, it's irrelevant. But the constant intention, you don't need positive or negative. All you need is intention to do an action, and you action your vision. And then your self-regulation helps you keep going with that action, even if you have a lot of external resistance from others or internal resistance from yourself. So those would be my 3 main ones.
Oh, they're powerful. And I'm all
Yeah,
about
keep it simple.
intention.
Yeah, keep
We
it
do
simple.
monthly intention with ceremonies around full
Yes.
moon. I set every year a yearly intention, and it's
Yes.
like my stake in the ground. I've already got next year's. It rises from within me. I don't
Yes.
it just comes, and this time came early. I've got it written on a little whiteboard on the fridge, so it's there. It
Yeah.
anchors me, it pulls me back to whatever the intention is for the whole year.
Yes.
So your intention is really powerful. So this is called Inner Voice of Knowing, Ian. What's one thing, or how has your inner voice of knowing served you throughout your life?
I'm in Australia because of it. So again, I don't, as you said, through the air, where I have never questioned mine. And it is for anybody who's thinking about intuition, I have never had an experience where my intuition has ever been wrong ever in my life. I've had lots of experiences of not listening to it and things buggering up,
Yeah.
right? But I have never ever had where it has ever led me astray.
Even if sometimes
Ever.
it's felt like a risk.
Oh, it's led me into some very uncomfortable things.
Yeah.
Yeah. And often
Yeah.
that's generally why it's there.
Yes. I love that.
So
Ian,
yeah.
this has been so enlightening. I myself want to come back and listen to it over and over and over, because I don't have all the science and stuff in the way that you do, but I always find it fascinating, and you speak in such a way that it really grounds everything and brings everything together, of those 2 worlds. So I really appreciate you've been on. You're here in Perth in Western Australia. So for anyone that wants to come and see you for your acupuncture and herbs, and I can seriously highly recommend. I've been to some acupuncturists, and then I've been to some. And you're one of those top people, and I know from personal experience just how amazing you are, how caring you are, and how skilled you
Sure.
are. And for those that want coaching, is your coaching like online and through Zoom or things like that? So anyone that's listening from anywhere can access you?
Yeah, physical and online. Yes, I do both.
Okay, fantastic. So we're going to have your links at the bottom.
Thank you.
So if anyone wants to contact you, if they're fortunate enough to be here in Perth, if they want your coaching services, then they've got all the links to access this wealth of knowledge and experience and insight that you have. It's been an absolute pleasure, Ian. Thank you so much for being on.
Thank you very much for having me.
Join me on my next episode. And if you love this podcast, please subscribe by clicking on the plus button if you're on Apple, or like and follow on Spotify. Rate and review. And please share Inner Voice of Knowing with your friends.